Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And she is, of course, sitting in on this video. We're going to talk about how apparently you need to pick a lane if you're going to work in Hollywood. You need to decide where your political allegiances are. And we already knew this, but they're coming out and saying there's no running or hiding from the culture wars, guys. Even if you try to stay out of the culture wars, you're still picking a lane. Where have we heard
Yeah,
this
no,
before?
see, and this has worked so well for them leading up till now. That's why they're all in trouble and they're scrambling because, picking a lane and pushing agenda has worked so well.
So we're gonna talk about this, and this is right up there with, I remember, a couple of years ago, like if you said you're going to be apolitical, they said, well, saying you're apolitical is a political statement because you're not siding with us, whichever side us is, right?
And moderate was bad too because
moderate was bad too because you have to pick a side.
But people did pick a side because you made them pick a side, and it wasn't the side you wanted them to pick. But they only did it because you made them choose.
They're mad because all this stuff is getting walked back. The DEI stuff's getting walked back. We're seeing the studios start to remember that, we have middle America out there and that Hollywood is very much in a bubble and they're trying to make, entertainment for general audiences. And, Hollywood has kind of forgotten how to do that in the last 10 years or so. And those movies, a lot of them they're doing really well. I mean, they talked about Twisters in particular doing well, and they're mad about it.
You know what gets me though too is they're also assuming that just because somebody like is Democrat that they want to see they want to see ham-fisted agenda in all their movies, but they don't. I think everybody in the middle, which is the majority of people. You might lean left, you might lean right, but the majority of people are in the middle. We just don't want it. We're tired of it the whole way around, and I think that their behavior and some of the other things we're going to talk about here in this video are just pushing people to the other side, and you're causing your own problems. Just go back to making entertaining movies for the biggest common denominator, and you can do your niche stuff here and there, but if you want to succeed, you're going to have to go back to just making entertainment for everyone.
Yeah, but we can't do that because I don't think they thought Trump was going to get reelected, and now I feel like we're in a situation where it's like 2016 times 10. Like, I honest to God.
Well, they're trying, but I don't think it's working. It's actually just making it worse for themselves. They can't see it.
I think it's pissing a lot of people off. But what is going to happen is you're going to get a lot of people tuning out. They're going to tune out, and then your business is going to collapse, and you're going to be like, oh my God, guys, what's going on? People aren't watching our movies. We don't understand. Let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, rants, guys. You will get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
Go out to Substack if you're looking for notifications of our videos. If YouTube is not giving them to you, it's clownfishtv.substack.com. You will get an email notification every time we post a new video. This is coming from The Wrap.
Yes, Brian's at The Wrap, so I know who to yell at.
Memo to Hollywood. There's no running or hiding from the culture war. Today's world means you have to pick a side whether you want to or not.
Bullshit. They've been okay. I would argue that people like Brian and the media and Hollywood created the culture war to begin with, and in most of the ways, it has not worked out for them. And demanding the studios do it again when they're starting to claw their way out of it is the stupidest thing you could do, Brian.
When it comes to getting embroiled in politics for studios, media companies, and celebrities, there's no turning back. Actually, they are. They're walking back the DEI mandates. They're trying to create content that's more middle of the road. Some people would say bland, but it's really hard not to piss somebody off now. But I don't think they care anymore.
I don't think you have to make it like everybody has to be happy, but I think you need to make entertaining movies and, that are just good movies that are for fun, that they might have diverse characters in it, but that's not the focus of the movie or the show. It's not really that hard. You guys did it for decades.
So he is correctly pointing out, I think he's right here. He said that the polarization began in 2008 with Obama and the Tea Party movement, and then that's with social media it kind of exacerbated the problem. He said Twitter in particular, and
Twitter, which they ran until recently, and that's what they're mad about because they aren't running it anymore.
So this person here, let's see, Jay Walker Smith said, we've just been through a long period of activism and populism, both left and right. And now we have to continue to be in it, I guess.
No, you don't. You don't have to.
So whatever the origin, the reality of today's politically infused world offers few safe harbors or havens. Public figures have increasingly been forced to take sides, as an inordinate number of high-profile celebrities did during the presidential campaign. You didn't have to.
No, you didn't have to. They lined up behind Harris, and they were all paid to do it. They were paid a bunch of money to do it.
After the election, there were some signs of news. I almost said view fatigue. That is fatigue in and of itself. The View, news fatigue. Liberals in particular took a respite from media consumption to lick their wounds.
But here, my argument is going to be this, because that's going to come again later. The problem is, if you had been paying attention, if you had been engaging with people, instead of just being like in your echo chambers and telling people they can't comment or like or say anything to you if you don't agree with you, you would have seen it coming. If you had actually talked to the people around you, you would have seen it coming.
So they're talking about how they basically have Hollywood people railing against right-wingers and right-wingers railing against Hollywood. They're talking about Megyn Kelly in particular.
Yeah, but someone's winning. One of the sides is winning and one of the sides isn't.
She's trolling out-of-touch celebrities, and but she herself has an elite status. She gets $70 million for her stint.
I don't know. I don't even pay
NBC
attention
News.
to Megyn Kelly. I don't pay attention to talking heads for the most part. So unless it's our talking heads, but we're animated, so we're more fun.
They said, taken together, such cultural critics constitute a loud, very loud chorus of those who reap the benefits of a politically charged, short attention span age, where headlines ping like a hummingbird from one bright object to the next. Well,
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. I mean, look, this is the thing, and this is what we ran into, and this is kind of how we got to the place where we're at right now, where, again, from 2016 to especially 2018 or so, you were not allowed to say like, hey, I don't want to get involved in politics. It was like, what are you, some kind of bigot? Are you a secret Nazi sympathizer? How could you not want to talk about politics?
Well, that's how they got you. They're like, if you don't go along with it, you are a Nazi and a racist and a bigot and all the other crap to try to bully you into submission. And people are just over it. And I think that's what's happening. The reason people are turning against them is because they're just over it. They're tired of it. They're tired of a purity test there's no way to pass.
So here's the problem. They're noticing the rap. This guy, Brian Lowry. Brian is noticing that Hollywood is, in fact, walking it back, and he doesn't like it. He said, today, many have chosen the path of the least resistance, even if that's a misguided decision.
It's not a misguided decision. It is based on finances and based on survival.
It's understandable given the maelstrom of madness awaiting those who walk into the fray. We saw it Sunday with a mostly apolitical Academy Awards, spared from Trump tweeting about the show in real time as he did last year. But the telecast drew criticism from the left for failing to address what's happening in the U.S. and by extension around the globe, while there was still enough to offend conservatives that Hollyweird trended on X. Actually, I thought it was kind of funny that a lot of the big tentpole films did not win.
No, and the thing is, they keep saying Hollyweird. They say Hollyweird for a reason, because it's true. The reason it's trending is because middle America thinks that Hollywood sucks and Hollywood is weird. The people you're trying to sell films to, sell tickets to, sell subscriptions to, think you're weird.
So this is the end of the article. This is how he ends it. This is like, what the hell's going on here? Taking a stand, as Jane Fonda did with her passionate speech, and she's been running at the mouth for decades. It's kind of a joke. Jane Fonda.
She caused a lot of problems for people in Vietnam.
That's a whole other thing, right? But yeah, everybody's like, oh my God, Jane Fonda. But she said you had to combat the current political climate with empathy at the Screen Actors Guild Award last month.
Empathy. That's why you tell people who don't agree with you, you call them names and try to bully them into submission. That's why if someone doesn't like a cartoon, you go after them and try to say they're racist and misogynist. That's why when you're a woman who says that you don't like, that you thought Ray was a Mary Sue, that's totally cool for a guy to talk down to you and tell you that it's because you're an internalized misogynist and call you, the C word in Spanish. Because, that's all empathy, guys.
Now, this is where it kind of low-key sounds like a threat, but remaining silent risks prompting charges of complicity and cowardice from perceived allies. That's what we heard for years. Like,
it's bullying. It's bullying.
It's bullying. They want to bully you into taking a stand. This is why we had a bunch of celebrities virtue signaling during the first Trump era, because they basically had to, or they were going to be publicly flogged. Like, where's your Black square. Where's your pride flag?
Oh, you have to have the right numbers of black squares.
Yeah. Where's your? Clearly, you're not one of us. You're not one of the allies.
Don't want to be one of you. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm against anybody who's different than me. Actually, unless you're an asshole, I have no problem with anyone. The issue is, we're going to talk about assholes here in a minute. The issue is this whole idea that we're trying to bully you, and they're talking about empathy. These are the people that bully everyone, that they literally, the Hollywood, because that's what they're calling them, and the media, like Brian here, I think are solely, well, not solely, but the biggest part responsible for the culture war that exists today. They're the biggest part of why people turned to the right and voted Trump in, because you all are so out of touch. And everybody's tired of it. They're calling you Holly Weird for a reason.
Why?
Kindly fuck off. I don't say silent, so I'm not complicit because I have no problem saying what I think.
I mean, are there people that are getting outraged about shit it's just been kind of business as usual in Hollywood for decades? Yeah, there are. There are some people I'm like, I gotta admit, like you see some of the takes. I've talked about Matt Walsh a lot, and I'm like, have you ever like watched a movie? Because it's like something they've done, for a long time, and now you're getting upset about it or whatever.
Yeah.
But so there are people that definitely are not, they don't actually watch movies or play video games or whatever.
Or they're deliberately trying to be, they're trying to play a side, which is no different than what,
right.
These people are doing. And I think that's another problem. It's playing the sides shit, but
Yeah. And then this is how it wraps up. And then we'll get into our story here because I can tie it,
stories actually.
Can tie it back into why we started doing these kinds of videos in the first place, right? They said with so much traffic at the intersection of pop culture and politics, collisions seem inevitable. And to borrow a line from Casablanca, in this world today, isolationism is no longer a practical policy. How dare you be apolitical?
That's all you do is isolate yourselves. Then wonder why no one relates to you or understands you, or how you got it so wrong. Because if you're in your echo chamber smelling each other's farts, you're not going to know what everybody else thinks because all you did was sniff each other's farts and all agree with you. The agreeable farts.
So this is just real quick. This was kind of an update. We talked about somewhat in the video yesterday, and we talked about Tiana, but apparently there's outrage now because this Disney Pixar Win or Lose, they dropped a trans storyline, but they kept a openly Christian character, which is very weird because I guess Disney hasn't done that in like 20 years. They haven't had like an openly Christian character.
If I'm going to be fair, though, it really does come across as a double standard. I mean, if I'm going to be fair, I myself, actually, I swear a lot, but I am Christian. But I can see why. I know. So I saw this. I knew they were going to get pushback because they're going to say it's a double standard, and in a way, it kind of is. But then again, you said you haven't had anything like this in 20 years, but you've had all kinds of other representation leading up to this year.
Yeah, it's interesting because what they're saying was, I'm sitting there thinking back, and I'm like, yeah, there really hasn't been a Christian representation in Disney movies. They kind of stayed away from it for a while, but it was Bridge to Terabithia, but that was based on a book. So really, you can't say that was Disney. It was based on the book, and I'm pretty sure they went to church in the book too.
I don't remember.
It's been a long time since I read that.
It was a sad book. I blocked it.
It's a very depressing book. Yeah, every book we had to read. See, so this is the thing. This is why everybody's so soft now, because every book that we had to read growing up involved kids or dogs or both dying.
Or mice, rats. Flowers for Algernon. It was like, I keep joking. It was like there was a contest in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, even up to the early 80s, about who could write the saddest story ever and then make children read it.
Yeah, it was. It was like all those books written in the 60s and 70s. Like they were like so
maybe some 50s, but mostly 60s and 70s. And it was like, who can write the saddest shit and make school children have to read it and be traumatized for life?
It is statistically improbable that everybody's dog dies horrifically. Right? Like that was my takeaway from these books is like your dog doesn't just die, but dies a horrible death.
Okay, you know what? I had avoided where the red fern grows my entire life. But then I had to do a substitute job, and that was what they were talking. And it was the part where they got to the part where the dogs die. It wasn't even like early on. And I was like, you picked me up that day, and I just started sobbing uncontrollably. Yeah, I was like, I avoided that my whole life, and now you've ruined my life. Thank you.
And somebody's gonna comment and be like, oh, thanks, Clownfish TV. I've been waiting 40 years to read that book. And
trust me. You don't want to read it. So anyway, but I can see where they're going to argue that that's a double standard. And I can see where they could successfully argue that. If I'm being fair, which I try to be fair.
Yeah, but they're making you pick this. That's the thing. It's like you can't. I mean, Disney just in general, like they had a Christian music festival and they got rid of it. Like, what was it, about 8 or 10
years ago? Yeah.
And then Universal picked it up. And then
Universal has it. Yeah.
Also does other stuff that you consider to be on the other side of it too. I mean, look, at the end of the day, these companies want your money. And they'll take everybody's money.
Oh, trust me, Pride Month, they make all this shit not because they really care, just because they want your money. They all cash in for that, because they know you're going to buy it.
Oh yeah. And what doesn't sell, they just kick it off to, what was it, the Character Warehouse or whatever.
Yeah, and then it goes on super clearance, and everybody gets it there in super clearance.
It's like Disney's always.
We're gonna talk about real stories, like our stories that we're gonna talk about.
Yeah. So this is kind of what got us in
insanity.
The insanity. This is what got us into doing these videos in the first place. We were not allowed to be politically neutral. We were not allowed to have concerns about the behavior of the comic book industry and all the weird political stuff going on in comics.
You didn't know about Comicsgate at all.
I didn't know
anything. You just made a comment about Marvel numbers not being great and how it's kind of concerning. And then because of that, we had friends, and this is going to be an ongoing trend with what we're talking about. Friends we knew for years suddenly unfollowed you and blocked you. And you're like, what is going on? Because you Comicsgate. It's like, what the hell is Comicsgate?
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. And I don't know if it's because, we had the theme park blog and we had, experience working on Disney comics for years. But yeah, I checked out at that point because we stopped doing the Disney comics around 2014, 2015.
We weren't doing a webcomic that much then.
No, because the comic book industry, we noticed on our own that the whole thing just kind of like cratered, right?
It didn't pay worth shit.
It didn't pay very well. And the people were starting to get weird, but I didn't realize just how, because we had walked away, I did not realize how bad it had gotten. And then when we got kind of pulled back into it, just making an observation about Marvel's sales numbers, then we started to realize that like a lot of people that we were on very good terms with for years, I mean, people that we tabled next to at conventions.
People we've helped.
There are people that I've helped get jobs that were like blocking me all of a sudden. IDW, like everybody from IDW blocked me. And I'm like, what the hell? I never did.
And all you did was ask about why is Marvel's numbers so bad? That's all you did.
And they're like, he must be Comicsgate. I'm like, for fuck's sake.
This political pickling is just getting so insane. And that's why one of the reasons we started doing it. The other one was, this whole idea that they could take legacy IP, make changes to it, and then you had to love it. If you didn't like it, it's because you were a bigot. If you did, and if it was, there's lots of reasons to complain about how weak it was or whatever things. You were a bigot, so that was the other problem we ran into. And then as people started getting bullied, like I always say, you're allowed to like something, you're allowed to not like something, and I stand by that. If someone disagrees with me because they like it and I don't, that's completely fine. What isn't fine is when you then take that and then you start, bullying other people, calling them names, telling them they're a bad mother because you don't like the She-Ra skirt, or whatever, shorts under the skirt or whatever. And all that crap, which literally happened. And that's when we stand up and say, hell no. And that's when we, started doing this. But it's years down the road and it's still just as bad, if not worse, than it was then. It's getting worse. And I've seen it, especially in the nerd spaces again. I mean, I talk about it in the D&D video. It's disgusting, but the day Ernie Gygax passed, and Ernie, I knew he was a good guy. He really was. And the day he passed, Reddit, they had a post on the OSR subreddit, and they were basically dragging him like, he was a racist. He was we can acknowledge that he helped contribute to D&D, but he was a racist and a bigot. That's like Stan Lee.
Yeah, they were dragging Stan Lee too. Because he didn't cite, and they basically said, and I couldn't believe this. This is again the OSR. This isn't even the 5e. This is the OSR subreddit, and they were like, with Ernie, they were like, well, he's not one of us guys. He's not one of us because he's a racist and a bigot and a misogynist. And I'm like,
but it's Reddit, so that you've answered your own question.
It's Reddit, but I'm like, he's been gone for 12 hours. You couldn't even help yourself. Because
they're pieces of shit.
It's garbage, and it's getting worse. I'm seeing it more and more now. In the comic space, we have like the only reason we're not dealing with the insanity of comic book pros on X is most of them have left for Blue Sky. Mm-hmm. But I've had friends come to me and say, do not go to Comics Blue Sky. It is the biggest trash fire. It's like so much worse than Twitter was.
Well, here's the thing, and this is kind of like with business. Okay, so a couple of things here. We talked about this a little bit. I'm going to go into a little bit more today. So I have two instances of business people who want your money, who hate you. The first one, which we found out today, am I allowed to say where the convention is?
I'll say it's Sci-Fi Valley Con.
In Altoona.
In Altoona, Pennsylvania.
We got blocked from them. Okay, let me tell you why.
This is.
I don't have the receipts here, but I do have the receipts, and I will probably be posting them on Twitter because I have the receipts. So I don't remember exactly what's going on, but it was back. People were like, having a hissy about anybody who if you voted for Trump, you shouldn't be my friend and stuff like that. And as I said it on Facebook using Apple products and things, and I pointed out, well, it's ironic because you're using the products of people that were at the inauguration. You're fine with that when it benefits you. So Kneon made a post. It was a basic post about it's ironic to him about the same thing.
And I wasn't even
the owner of the convention, Mr. Bassett, took it upon himself to come in and respond to Kneon on his own. I mean, we haven't heard from him forever.
Own page. It was on
his
my
own page.
Yeah.
Where he basically says that as far as he's concerned, anybody who voted for Trump is a Nazi.
Yes.
And at that point I said, well, that's, you run Sci-Fi Valley Con, and I don't know if that's a smart thing to do, given that, where you're located, a lot of people are Republican, and a lot of your people voted for Trump, and more than half the country voted for Trump. And I said, you better not be taking any money from these people, or you better tell them they're not welcome at your event if you think they're Nazis, because it would be really, really asinine of you to call them that behind their back and then take their money. Yes. He deleted his post, and apparently then he blocked both Kneon and I on Facebook from the convention. Now, mind you, we have been with that convention, supporting the convention. He did a whole thing thanking us before for all the stuff we did for his convention. Yeah. Since he started.
We used to buy.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we used to buy like 3 tables. We buy like a half of aisle. We sold. This is back when we did, because we talked about this before. We used to do the convention scene, and Sci-Fi Valley was actually one of our favorite conventions. And I know for a fact, some of his guests are actually more conservative than we are. But whatever. But yeah, I always said good things about the convention. I even helped him with it worked out to my advantage for Superhero Day. But he asked me to come to help him because they wanted me there, and I went out of my way to accommodate. So we were like supporting them, but you're promoting them and everything. He took it upon himself to come onto a post that Kneon posted, basically saying, I don't understand it. Like, you're saying you hate these people, but you're using the same platforms. You want to use the platforms and stuff for the people you hate when it benefits you. Yeah, I thought it was ironic.
That's all you said.
I didn't even know. Apparently, because my Facebook page is private, so you have to be a friend.
You are hardly ever on Facebook.
I'm hardly ever on Facebook. I very seldom. I just thought it was ironic that people were losing their shit and they're using products and services. Because I've seen lots of people like, you have to boycott these companies. I'm like, bitch, you're writing it on Facebook. Zuckerberg, it was ironic. Zuckerberg,
and they're probably using your iPhone.
Probably using your
Tim
iPhone.
Cook.
You probably Googled it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
It was very, very ironic. Just because you quit X doesn't mean that these other people, aren't supporting Trump as well. Tim Cook from Apple gave Trump a whole bunch of money out of his own personal piggy bank.
Right. And ironically, the person who runs Sci-Fi Valley Con is obsessed with Apple and Steve Jobs. But, and that's all you did. And he come in and lost his shit, made a really stupid comment. I called him out for it. He deletes it and then blocks us from the convention. And I'm sure we're probably on a list that we can't go.
Yeah, so I heard this, and I don't know 100%, but I heard this from a friend of mine who used to do the cosplay scene in Western PA, that once you get on the block list, like all the conventions around here, most of the conventions will block you. And I'm like, oh, you do not want to do that.
No.
We go to conventions all the time. You do not, we didn't even
do anything. He did.
All I said was, it's ironic that you're bitching about Trump supporters on Facebook, which is owned by Zuckerberg.
As far as he's concerned, and I'll post the receipts. I'll post the receipts on X. As far as he's concerned, basically, if you voted for Trump, you're a Nazi. And all I said was, well, considering how a bunch of your audience in that area are Republicans, I would assume I assume you're not going to let them into your convention. You're not going to take their money, because it'd be really bad if you're telling us that you think they're all Nazis and hate them, but you want their money. And then he deleted it and then blocked us from the page.
Yeah. So this is what we're talking about, right? This is what we're talking about. Like the reason Hollywood is walking it back is they have realized you cannot alienate 50% or more of potential customers and stay in business.
I think they thought, and this is what somebody else did, and they ironically have a Kickstarter right now. I'm not going to say who they are, but this is another comic person, was a web comic person, said if you voted for Trump, you unfollow me. you better unfollow me. I don't want to be associated with you. If you have Trump, unfollow me. And I pointed out was, well, you're going to do a crowdfunder soon, so I'm assuming you're going to put on your Kickstarter that if you voted for Trump, you don't want their money, because that would be hypocritical of you. And he was like, why would I do that? That'd be crazy. That'd be insane. I'm like, because you just got done saying you can't be your friend if you voted for Trump, but you're going to take their money, and they don't know that you hate them. And they cannot comprehend why they cannot see why that's a double standard. Like, personally, I know people that voted, for Harris. I'm still friends. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still friends with them, because I'm not going to be like, not talk to somebody because they voted differently than me. Ironically, today, somebody who I've known since I was in elementary school, been friends with on Facebook for years. I've known them forever, since I was like first, second grade. I put up about the video with the senators that were in lockstep doing the same video over and over, if you've seen it on there. And I just said, this is not probably a smart thing to do, because people aren't going to trust you. And I think being trustworthiness is important right now to people. And they're going to look at this and they're going to find it untrustworthy. And it's probably, it's maybe why you're losing, to the right, because you're acting in this manner. You're behaving in this manner. And I said, it's probably not smart if you want to get reelected. And I said, I'm not a Republican. I used to be a Democrat, but now I'm independent, because I think the far left's gone too far. He had a hissy fit a couple days before, about something else, and said, if you don't agree with him, don't respond or do anything on his post. So I didn't. He puts a laughing emoji on mine and then unfriends me. We've been friends for years.
Doesn't matter. I mean,
this is so pickled and so insane.
Yeah, we were having a conversation. We stopped at the grocery store before we came to work here, and we had a conversation. I know there are some people I've been friends with since like grade school that you can't say anything on Facebook without getting jumped. And I know, like, there's one person in particular I was really good friends with. He was one of my best friends back in the day, but like, he is so far gone. I know I had some pushback. I pushed back against his views on Antifa in 2020. I'm like, yeah, they're burning shit. It's like, no, this isn't good. And he just like tore me a new one. I'm like, dude, what the hell happened to you? And you can't say anything. And there are people out there. They're prowling Facebook. They were prowling Twitter. Now they're over on Blue Sky, but they're just looking for people that are stepping out of line. And it doesn't matter if you're friends. It doesn't matter if you're family. Hell, they're telling each other. If your family voted for Trump, they're no longer your family.
That's what I'm saying.
That's cult-like,
normal,
isn't it?
rational people. Yes, it's a cult. Normal, rational people don't behave this way. And the reason that people, I think, are going to the right more, you're pushing them. You are literally pushing everybody over there, and you have been. And it's because of this behavior, because of this, immature, insane, all or nothing, my way or the highway, spoiled, bratty-ish behavior. And people are like, I can't deal with it anymore. No. I can't deal with it. So I'm just going to go over there, because at least over there, like, I'm allowed to disagree, and that's fine. And they can't stand it. You guys are literally like Hollywood. Why are they getting called Holly weird? Because of this behavior. Do not do more of it. Hollywood needs to do less of it. The media and Hollywood have caused, I think, so much harm. And they themselves, I think, are a big part of why a lot of people went the other way.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, it's just so weird to be like, they're angry that the Academy Awards weren't political enough, right? Like that's what this whole article was case building to get to the punchline that, well, the Academy Awards should have been more political because we need to call out this stuff.
Like, everybody was mad that they weren't. The people on the left were mad that they weren't saying more. Like when Zoe Sedano won that, why aren't you saying more about that Garcon's comments and stuff like that? And it's like, why should she have to? It's already been talked about to death. But I'm just saying, it's this crazy ass ridiculousness. I mean, a convention that we've been a part of, he actually put a big thank you out to us before. We're no longer allowed to even be on the Facebook page because he did something shitty and I called him out.
He jumped. I mean, that's what blows my mind. Like, they started.
And I have screenshots, Casey. I have the screenshots.
Deliberately went into our mentions into, like, unprovoked, started shit. And then blocked us, and I'm like, "You're a business, you're a convention owner."
I think you're saying little bitch, because that would be more.
Well, no,
more
I'm just
accurate.
like, I mean, but I've seen this happen time and time again. It's not just him. I've seen publishers do it. I've seen people that run other conventions in other cities do it. I've seen social media managers do it. Like they hit and run, right? They hit and then they stir up shit.
But like he started it. He did it.
I know.
All I did was say, I don't think that's a very smart take. given that half, at least probably way more than half of the customers for his convention probably voted for Trump. I'm like, I really don't think what you're saying is probably a good thing. And then I wasn't even very nice about it. And then he takes it down and blocks us.
Yeah.
No apology. We're supposed to apologize to him, I'm sure.
It's wild.
Well, I'm going to post those receipts. So.
All right. Are we going to wrap this one up?
Yep.
Okay. So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.